Pressure. Tua steps up. He's going to run.
Hello, darkness, my old friend. I've come to talk with you again, because a vision softly creeping left its seeds while I was sleeping, and the vision that was planted in my brain still remains within the sound of silence. In restless dreams I walked alone, narrow streets of cobblestone, neath the halo of a street lamp.
Miami Dolphins select Tua Tagovailoa.
Sure that when you look back on this day, you're going to be like, damn, that was one of the best days of my career too. Okay? But I'll earn that from you. You got me? And that there's no other coach you'd rather play for in the entire world, which I thought was nice since this is the first time I've really talked to him. I mean, lady.
And in the naked light I saw 10,000 people, maybe more. People talking without speaking. People hearing without listening. People writing songs and voices never shared. And no one dared disturb the sound of silence.
36. He's traveled 16.
Forfeit I do not. Silence like a cancer grows. Hear my words and I might teach you. Take my arms and I might reach you.
Speed race. He's got it. He's got it.
Like silent raindrops fell and echoed in the wells of
This is Finn's TV, a Miami Dolphins inspired podcast. It's fueled by the power of positivity.
Welcome to Finn's TV. I'm your host, Finn Sammy, aka Finn's Post on It. And as always, my co-host Steve. Hello, Steve. Welcome to a very sometimes difficult weekend and week of Finn's TV.
Yeah, Sammy. Happy Tuesday. It's been it's probably good that we've had 5 days, 5 evenings since Thursday Night Football. I got to say that the Finn's TV podcast has really benefited from the fact that we've had 2 years of McDaniel and Tua playing together and relative success when you compare it to the previous decade before that. A lot of excitement. So we've had a lot of up moments over the past year on this podcast. A few last year. This is really our first one this year that I think it's going to be, it's going to be a little bit more difficult to be on the positive side, at least for me. But I think that's why we have, Matt Armstrong is here, and then our other guests are going to be here to kind of drag me off the cliff. But I tell you right now, I'm hanging by a string.
Absolutely. It's been a rough weekend. We're going to certainly talk about that. We're going to talk about, the week it was. Well, probably was next for Tua after, he suffered another concussion in the game against the Bills. And, of course, we had to talk some Finn's TV overreaction. We're going to talk about what, are the Dolphins done on the Finn's TV overreaction. And next, well, we're going to have a long trip to Seattle to face the Seahawks. So, it's been rough. It's been rough. I was listening to the official Miami Dolphins podcast, and even the official podcast, the mood is somber. They're frustrated with everything. Travis Winfield said he's broken today listening to the podcast. I feel the same way. So I kind of surprised, kind of admit it, but it's been a rough couple of days.
No, I admit, Sammy, and admitting this to everybody, from the moment Tua went down, I tuned out. I went from angry at the performance that we were putting out there, and we'll get into that, to totally tuning it out. It's an emotion with football that I don't remember the last time I felt like this. Maybe my birthday, went the day in training camp when Tannehill re-injured his knee and went down. It was just like, oh my God, So it's really taking me a lot to get my mind back into it. But we'll talk about it. We'll talk about the game. We'll talk about how Tua, with the stuff with that, some overreactions, and then look forward to what is really the longest road trip in the NFL, which is from Miami to Seattle. So yeah,
absolutely. Let's go right ahead. We're not gonna have highlights this week. Let's go right ahead. It was a very rough game against the Bills. What we call the snowball effect didn't happen, but we talk about how the momentum needed to be contained. The Dolphins need to be cautious and to have a good game plan for the second straight week. The Dolphins, if you ask me, they didn't look as prepared and as in control as you would expect them to be. And I had to be mindful as the game went by. I was so close to tweeting "Protect Tua at all costs," and I said, "Nope, I'm not gonna do that. I'm not gonna tweet it. I'm not gonna bring it to us. I'm gonna stay positive and hope for the best." And as soon as he started running, I say, "Oh no, here we go." Still, the Dolphins didn't look like they were in control of any part of the game. Tua, for what it's worth, the Dolphins the same problems all over again for the fifth straight game. They're playing the same kind of defense against the Dolphins. Double teaming Waddle, double teaming Tyreek Hill. No Jonnu Smith. HN did his best running the ball, but at the end of the day, the results were the same. The Dolphins, if you ask me, for the second game this season, look unprepared. What are your thoughts about the game, Steve?
Sammy, I please everybody out there forgive me, because this is going to be broken record Steve coming out here for a while. And a lot of this probably could and should be saved for the third segment here of overreactions, but I've got to get this off my chest. 5 games in 2023, we went up against the league's top talent. And I'm not counting the Cowboys, who we beat, because, frankly, after wildcard weekend, both teams ended up in the same exact place, sitting on their couches or off on some island getting their vacations going. But 5 games last year that we went against the league's top talent, and it should have been burnt into each of those coaches' brains, into the GM's brain, to say we didn't do it well enough. What didn't we do well enough that we need to change next year and we need to improve upon? I'm an armchair quarterback. I'm not even a good one at that. But Greer and Coach McDaniel, they are pro-level talent. They are one of 32 in the world at their positions respectively. But I don't understand how you can have a long off season. To us, it's extremely long. To them, to Coach McDaniel, who spends 18-hour days, if not more, of eating, breathing, sleeping, drinking, everything with what he does, it's got to be even longer. So this game against Buffalo was, in my opinion, for all the top talent that we're going to face this season, was probably the best opportunity we had to go out there and make a statement. They were on the road, short week. They had maybe 3 days of rest before they had to get out there and do what they had to do and travel to Miami. They're injured. They had a lot of injuries to deal with. And they came into our stadium. We had an opportunity to go out there and try to change things up a little bit. But the offense was absolutely, like I said in the intro, I was angry by the time Tua got hurt because it was just so frustrating to see some of those things just manifest themselves again. I know, and I really hope, Jason, you'll be able to kind of clue me into some of this stuff because, again, I haven't digested any of this up until today. But the defenses, I read somewhere on social media before I totally shut it down that Buffalo ran a bunch of too high safety looks to really take away what is Miami's bread and butter, what hurts all the other teams. So my question is, why in the world were we sitting out there saying, you know what, we went out there and we got ourselves a top tight end talent in the league. Why in the world weren't they feeding him? I got some stats I'll talk about later, but 9 times the Jonnu Smith has been targeted through 2 games. Why didn't they just feed him the ball? Yeah, you're right, Sammy. Achane was our one shining star out there on offense, but you can only do so much, So I kind of don't understand how, again, anybody is shocked by what happened or where we are right now, because I don't want to be right when I say these types of things, but these were the concerns that I had throughout the offseason when we'd have our monthly podcasts. And the bottom line in the Buffalo game, I'll leave it at this: the offense got their butts handed to them. Defensively, before I pass this off, Sammy, I know I'm talking a lot, but defensively, I think that they did as well as they, for the most part, as well as they could with what they were given. How many drives did Buffalo get it inside Dolphins territory? A couple turnovers, interceptions, turnovers on downs. They're getting the ball with a very short field. Again, I just, it's extremely frustrating. There were some high points on defense that got me excited, but there just weren't enough of them to keep me from being extremely angry and frustrated at how the entire game plan rolled out.
Absolutely. They started on average, they drive at the Dolphins 45. That really says a lot. And we're not going to try to move this edition along. It's not a celebration like other times. So we're going to try to move this along. So let's go straight to our special guest today. Tiffany, Tower Terror on X, and Jason Sarney, the hardest working man on Dolphins Nation, of course, Mr. Perfect Man Armstrong. Good evening, guys.
Hey, guys.
Hello.
Welcome to the show.
I'm going to start with Tiffany. Tiffany, welcome. You're very active on social media. You follow a lot of people. You're always in contact with Dolphins Nation. What you were actually doing at the game on Sunday. What are your thoughts? What happened? How the mood changed when that happened to you? You had a first glance at what happened in the stadium.
Yeah, so I had the unfortunate opportunity of watching our collapse live, which was not great. My opinion is going to be a little different than most, to be honest with you. And I've said this before. I saw the writing on the wall after the Jags game. And when I saw a team back then at that first game that was just discoordinated and discombobulated on both the offense and defense. And we won a game that, in my opinion, should have been a clear and convincing win by the skin of our teeth. And so I knew that this was going to be a tough game. I think the the environment really saw that. I mean, everybody was really hyped and we were hoping we could pull it through. The press conferences leading up to the game suggested that the front office and McDaniel were going to make adjustments, and I just didn't see that. And then when, unfortunately, not to beat a dead horse, but when Tua went down, the mood was obviously shifted to exactly what Steve said. I mean, people were already checking out, and then at that point, it was just like, what more can a group of fans take? I'm just hoping that we learn from this experience. While exactly as Steve said, it should have been an opportunity for us to show out. I think the benefit of losing a game this badly should be a momentum builder, and that's what I'm hoping the team pulls from this.
Absolutely.
Tiffany,
Listen,
I wanted to say, because you were there, you're the first person that I've really talked to that goes to many games at all. But in any case, in that moment, and I think, Sammy has a way of doing his intro videos and everything that really hit a point and touch a nerve, and the Sound of Silence thing just hit, because that's how everything went in my brain that game. I'm emotional right now just thinking about it, because you have we're fanatics, and you have so much hope, and just like that, you see it just suck out. How quiet did it get in the stadium to the point of just like where it's the energy? How was it?
Yeah, so I think exactly as you described it. It's weird because it happened so fast in the moment, and then in hindsight, it seems like it all happened in slow motion. Because you don't when you're watching it live, you can't really see what's happening on the field from your point of view, no matter where you sit when the players are that low to the ground. So honestly, everyone was just hoping. I was afraid Tua got knocked out. Because he stayed on the ground for a little bit. But it was just, I guess, even the Bills fans, I do have to say, as much as I get into fights with them, they were trying to send positive vibes to, and were pretty respectful, at least the ones that I could see. So, but it's like you described, it's really weird. It felt like it all happened so quick there. But then looking back at it, it felt like it went really slow finding out what was going on. And then when he walked off the field, everybody kind of let out a collective breath, because we knew, okay, he's walking. It can't be as bad as maybe we thought, because he was on the ground for a while. But and the players did, all Bills and Dolphins players did, collectively say a prayer for Tua on the field too. So there was a lot of camaraderie, which was nice to see.
You're dead on, Tiffany, because when you're live at a game, you don't have that view. I'll tell you right now, sitting in front of my TV, I knew instantly, because he hit and you saw his physical reaction.
Yeah.
Matt, Jason, Jason, you had to have known it immediately. Because it was that moment. I stood up and walked away. I don't know what you did, but I had to be instant.
I hold my remote because I'm always pausing and reminding. When that happened, I went like that. I threw it up. Like, it was such a knee-jerk reaction, knowing that it was like, this is bad. I've seen this before. Oh no. And it was like a toss-up of, here we go again, but in the worst way of feeling that you have to say that. And to echo what Tiffany said, I, at my couch, let out a collective breath after what felt like a year of finally seeing him walk off, and the McDaniel kiss was nice to see, that coach and player bond. And you hope two things. You hope that he recovers fully, obviously. And I hate being the guy to say this, but I'm going to have to be the football guy to say this. He has to protect himself from himself. And this is not an insult. This is a warrior mindset that I give him all the kudos and that's my quarterback in the world, to do what he does for his team. However, there comes a time where you have to learn how to protect your body, even when you know you might get hit. Give yourself up, slide. If you don't know the proper... Again, I'm sorry, I'm not trying to be insensitive here, but I'm calling up every retired baseball player under 40 in the South Florida area to come on in and teach everybody how to slide properly. Every quarterback that comes into camp, this is how you slide. This is how you give yourself up properly.
Caleb Williams admittedly did not know how to slide at all. And Jason, I don't want to stop it. I know we're talking Bill saying this is my fault, but Jason, I'm not going to stop you, but I just want to try to get us back on track at some point because we have a whole segment next to talk about Tua here, but I did that. That was my fault.
No, you're fine. You're fine. Let's get back on track. But I just hope he gets okay. And you know what? Just live to play another day. Don't worry about diving headfirst if you're a quarterback. You can't do that.
I want some cold hard facts from you though, because I know that you're a stat junkie much more than me. But what did you think about what the Dolphins were doing up until that point? What really went wrong?
What went wrong is, you know what? It was a typical story of what we've seen the last 20 years with a lot of different Dolphins teams is, one step forward, two steps back. And what I mean by that is, look, hey, McDaniel figured out the third and short, right? It's Alagingo. Oh, they knew that was happening.
Yep.
Damn. What are we going to do now? Well, you know what you should do? You establish that, and then when everyone thinks it's going to happen, you pull it back, you do a naked bootleg and hit Jonnu Smith on a drag 4 yards out. And then you let Jonnu take it 15 yards. You know why? Because he averages 7 yards after the catch for his career. So you learn from mistakes. You have to not make the same play call after you learn from the mistake. You know what I mean? So that's a little tiny thing. But I didn't see horror on defense. You obviously wish James Cook didn't have the game that he did. But overall, it wasn't a great game. Even if Tua was healthy and finished it, they probably weren't going to win it. The picks were all individually different kind of picks. The first one hit off of DuBois, and that was a bad play on him. Second pick was a Robbie chosen miss route, probably. You were there, Tiff. From your vantage point, from TV, I'm seeing I'm like, bad throw. I'm listening to Al Michaels because who's going to deny what Al Michaels says? He says bad throw. What was that throw like? Like from an actual person who was there, the chosen.
Oh, I got roasted because I thought it was Tua's fault from my point of view. And
admittedly, that was the first view I had. I was like, all right, bad throw. But then everyone's like, no. See, the bad throws don't happen. No, that didn't happen. And I got destroyed. So
I did too.
We're in the same boat.
Yeah, I mean, listen. From my vantage point, there were two of those interceptions that were on Tua. Even if Robbie ran the wrong route, I love Tua. I will ride or die for Tua, but I put those on him.
I'm going to sit shotgun in your car with the riding because I'm kind of with you on it if you'll have me because I'm kind of with you on that.
How about you, Matt? This is go to Matt. Matt, I'm sure you're the most positive one of us here, but even watching that game, there's no way you can think that this is going well. What are your thoughts about the game? What happened to the game against the Bills?
So last year there was so much made of him putting on some weight, doing the jiu-jitsu stuff to protect himself, and it was almost overkill with how much we heard about it. And then this year, from my point of view, we didn't hear very much at all about him slimming down. And from this fan's point of view, I was kind of excited about that. Add a wrinkle, the wrinkle being mobility from him, add that dimension to the offense. And we saw a little bit of it against Jacksonville, and I thought that's something that we haven't had. That would be a great thing, if that grows as the season goes. So Thursday night, obviously it takes forever to explain it as opposed to watching it in real time. But when he scrambled on that play, my initial thought was, all right, go pick it up. Second thought was, you're not going to slide there. And the third thought was, he's done. Really, that quick, in that order. As far as the interceptions, again, these are bang bang plays. The first one, I question why you were going to. I don't even know who that guy is. That's the guy that we picked up after we cut the lineman, right?
Yes.
Jack Dawson or something, the guy that drowned on Titanic, that guy. My first thought was, why are you even going to that guy? He didn't even know the ball was coming to him. the Robbie Chosen play, the initial thought was that's on Tua. Seeing Chosen ran the wrong route and he slipped in trying to correct. The ball was right on top of him. And then the third one is 100% on Tua. That game, I'm going to say something that may be controversial in hindsight, but the Dolphins lost that game on just about 4 plays. If you remove those 4 plays, and I know what this sounds like, if you remove those 4 plays, it's not as catastrophic as how it ended up being. And for the first time that I can ever remember, I went to bed when he was down and they were walking him off to the sideline. There's no reason for me to watch this. I didn't know what the final score was until Saturday. I checked out. Didn't I? You could have called me and said it was 48-10, and I would have believed you. I'm going to wrap up this part for me by saying we're so spoiled as Dolphins fans. The Chicago Bears have never had a Pro Bowl quarterback in their entire history. We have 2 in the Hall of Fame, and number 1 is the best one we've had since Tannehill, and he's even better than Tannehill, right? We care so much about him. Kudos to you for that opening. I'll admit that it was. I got a little bit Hallett on it. I got a little bit emotional in watching it. But it's because we care so much. Steve called it. We're fanatics. Talking to Jason a little bit last week and hearing his fandom going to college in why in the world did you go to Buffalo State or wherever?
If I may, the deal was stay in state and go the furthest away from Long Island, like
Gotcha.
Miami to Seattle is. That's the
Gotcha,
equivalent,
yeah.
longest possible distance while still in the state.
We are fans, and we
Budgets,
finally have
guys.
a guy at the most important position who can play. He can absolutely play, and I want him to do what's best for him. The team will always be there. I just want that guy to do what's best for him.
See, here's where you're wrong, Matt. And I'm going to tell you right now why you're wrong. That game was not 4 plays that went wrong. The team that walked into the locker room that day out of the parking lot and walked out onto the field at kickoff, they lost before they even kicked off because that's how they performed. The game plan, Matt, the game plan was horrible. Whatever McDaniel went out there to roll out on offense was so bad. I have to disagree with you, and in agreement with other people. I think that throw to Chosen, yes, Chosen fell, but Tua needs to have an understanding, especially after last year of not having Hill and Waddle out there when he needed them. When he doesn't have those wide receivers, he has to keep that in mind. He has to know, I can't chuck it 5 yards before they even turn around.
Well, I'm going to counter that by saying then they shouldn't be on the field then if you can't. They're professional players.
I don't disagree.
They're out there doing their role.
But this brings me to a question.
Allow me to tell you the 4 plays. The first play was driving to the stadium. The second play was walking into the locker room. The third play was walking out the tunnel. And the fourth play was the kickoff, all right? That game was big. But I agree with you. They were not – listen, it's the Buffalo freaking Bills. And besides Tiffany, everybody that can hear me knows what I feel about that club, that city. There's only one person in that city that I exclude from my rant.
Who is it?
And that is Mama Hallett, all right? Mrs. Hallett, Steve's mom, is excluded from the fact that the Buffalo Bills suck. The entire club, the entire city. I wish the city would go over those falls and be erased from the planet. That's how I feel about the Bills. I don't feel that way about the ones that donated $16,000 to the Tua Foundation. Those guys are great. But my point is that you knew who you were playing, and this is how you came out. Okay.
Please send your hate tweets. Beast Mafia, please send your hate tweets at 1 Armstrong on X. Well, since we're talking football, Josh Allen's stats during the game: 13 on 19, 139 yards passing, 2 rushes, 2 yards. If I told you that was her stats, you're gonna probably say, "Huh,
That's a W.
we have a chance. We probably
It's a
won that
W.
game." But the Dolphins had no chance there.
Yeah.
The second I saw Jalen Ramsey get juked out of his shoes 30 yards down the field from where Josh Allen was, I was like, are you freaking kidding? That's the presence. I hate him on the field. That's the presence a quarterback like that does is 30 yards downfield. Jalen Ramsey had to respect the fact that Josh Allen could take off on 3rd and 11 for a touchdown.
So a week ago, I said, in our conversations about what they needed to do,
Here
they
comes
needed
Matt
to
CVS
control
receipts.
Josh Allen, right? They needed to contain him, and they forgot about the running back. That dude just scored another touchdown. Like, what the hell?
See, you're making me laugh on such a. I like you, Matt. You're not a bad guy.
Let's move this along. So next we're gonna talk about what the media is saying about the Dolphins and what's next for Tua Tagovailoa.
Hugh, what are you hearing about where things stand for Tua right now?
There is no currently a timeline that exists, Greeny, and Tua Tagovailoa will go in search of that this week when he begins meeting with neurologists to get more information about his condition and what is the best course of action for him to move forward. He's 26 years old. When he went through this before, he had no desire to retire. My understanding is he still would like to continue playing and doesn't have any plans to retire. That is going into the meeting with the neurologist, which will help give him more information, which will help him make an informed decision. The Dolphins are sitting back and waiting to see what happens with Tua in these meetings and what comes out of them. And while I'm sure they've had to discuss how to proceed forward, I don't think they've had any significant discussions about replacements for Tua at this point in time when Mike McDaniel himself has said that Skylar Thompson is the expected starter for their next game against the Seattle Seahawks. And I know a lot of people suggested Tom Brady bringing him out of retirement. That's not going to happen with Tom Brady going to Miami.
All right, Jeff, for those who don't know, you make your home right there in Fort Lauderdale, so you're around this team as much as anybody, and you were there on Thursday night. What can you add?
Well, Greeny, I can tell you that first and foremost, I think it's important to point out that the team and Tua believe they are in lockstep with this decision. The team itself, I've spoken to members of the organization and the principal parties going all the way up to owner Steve Ross, believe this is Tua's decision with the independent doctors to decide his future. They plan not to push the envelope anything past that. But this is where this gets especially delicate. Now, 2 years ago in 2022, the NFLPA and the NFL put out a joint statement after an investigation into the handling of that situation. And they did say that in the week following what was never declared an official concussion, Tua never reported any symptoms, never told doctors that he had any issues whatsoever, and that's the reason that he was cleared to play. So I think the issue here as they move forward is everyone hoping, that Tua did learn from that he needs to be as upfront and honest with the doctors so that those doctors can provide the exact advice that's needed in this decision. The Dolphins, though, again, for their part, want Tua to make this decision. They want the doctors to advise him, and they, for now, want to stay out of that way.
All right, Jeff and Adam, thank you both. And again, that's why we repeat, he has been diagnosed with 3 concussions during his NFL career and 1 when he was in college in Alabama. And as we mentioned, it's a sensitive topic.
First of all, Rich, Mike McDaniel is exactly right. Tua Tagovailoa and his doctors will be making the decisions about his playing, his health. They will be driving the process. My understanding is that Tua Tagovailoa has no plans to retire. No plans to retire. In fact, his eyes are already on returning to the football field. As far as when that goes, we simply do not know. Every concussion is different. The way every player responds to a concussion is different. He will be healthy enough to play when he is healthy enough to play and when he and his doctors decide that. That said, he has already begun the process of seeing concussion specialist, as he did in 2022. Wouldn't be surprised if he saw these same doctors. The goal is to get on the field when he is ready. And that's one reason, Rich, why Mike McDaniel did not put a timeline on it, wouldn't even address it. Timelines lead to anxiety. As far as the football goes, wouldn't be surprised if he misses multiple games. As Mike McDaniel said, Skylar Thompson, the starting quarterback going forward.
The uncomfortable reality, Rich, of covering the NFL is there's about a dozen concussions a week. Was the total last season here. There are players in the NFL that have had more concussions than Tua Tagovailoa. We don't sit here and talk about the fact that Denzel Ward has had 5 diagnosed concussions and continues to play. He's not a quarterback. And unlike Tua, he didn't have 2 of the scariest looking concussions both occur on national TV.
Well, for what it's worth, the way the media has portrayed the situations has been completely different to the first time. They're saying it's on the hands of Tua, it's his decision, let's wait and see, let's not rush it. It'd be much respectful of people. Of course, there have been some who already called him to retire, but that's bound to be expected. So today, Tua was put on the injured list, so that means that the earliest he can come back to play is the game against the Cardinals. I'm going to go back first to Steve and then Tiffany. Steve, at the end of the day, it's like I said, when we all leave this planet, when we all live life, all you have is those you love and those who love you. So Tua has to do some searching for his family. He has to their kids. He always said that what he wants the most is for his son to see him play, but he's old enough to remember seeing that play. So it's a really complicated story. But what are your thoughts on Tua? Of course, it's his decision. We're going to respect whatever he chooses, but he already said that he plans to return to the Dolphins as soon as possible. What are your thoughts on the whole matter, Steve?
Well, I mean, the first thing that I thought of with this is this year any different than last year? Yeah, he learned jiu-jitsu, he gained weight, he lost the weight, whatever. Frankly, I think the only difference is last year he didn't get put in any positions where he consciously put his shoulder down and barreled into people. Matt said that earlier. Last year, he slid. Last year, he rolled away from the contact. For some reason, and it was, I think J.J. Watt was the one who said it, and he pointed it out, the hypocrisy of these types of things, because if Tua slides and the refs mark him down, and whether it gets challenged or not, and the ref just makes the best case judgment that can't be overturned, and he falls short on 4th down, then 75% of the people out there are going to absolutely lambaste him for not being tough enough to be able to take a hit. He lowers his shoulder and knocks himself out and is out now for an extended period of time, exposing potential, other concerns that we've had in the back of our minds for this long time. And 75% of the people, because 50% of them are all jerks anyway, and 25% of them can't make up their minds and just follow the masses, whichever way the pendulum swings, they're going to criticize him for putting his shoulder down. It's a lose-lose situation. My wife said this because, there isn't a yellow line on the field for them to say, hey, Tua, make it to this point and you're fine. I believe that if he had known where that was in the heat of that moment, he jukes just a little bit, slides, rolls, whatever he has to do, and he goes on to score a touchdown there. We just don't know. But we all know what Tua means to us. We know the impact that he's had on this, on what we have here. I wanted to look at it because the bottom line for me is if Tua makes a decision that is of his own accord, nobody else, for him, his family, his longevity, his legacy of what he defines that he wants that to be, then just let that be. If we're looking at this from a he defines his own qualitative and quantitative of what is enough for him in his life to say that's enough, or the risks of saying, gosh, if I do this any much more, I'm going to put another set of qualitative and quantitative part of my life with my family and my longevity at risk here. Overthecap.com says that he has already made over $70 million in his career with I don't know how many more guarantees he's still yet to make. Yeah, he pays taxes, pays his agent, everything else, but none of this factors in that, sponsorships, anything else. Let's just say he's made $70 million net in his career. He is still better than 99.97% of the American population in terms of net earnings. He is ultra net worth by those standards. He doesn't need to make anything more here. Again, he's the person that's going to have to define his legacy and what he wants. I just, as a fan of the Dolphins, and really truly of a fan of who Tua is to the community, to the people, to a fan base, I just hope for him it's the best decision that can guarantee him the quality of life that he really truly is going to want and need. It's his choice.
Absolutely. How about you, Tiffany? What are your thoughts on the whole matter? Of course, it's his life. He makes the decisions, but it's sort of when you have kids and you're a young mother, you have a 2.5-year-old baby. So you only probably you want to play, but you also have to think about your family. What are your thoughts on the whole matter?
Yeah, so I'm gonna try and keep it PG because I feel really passionately about this.
Please go ahead.
But so here's the thing. I'm gonna give what I know is sometimes a logically flawed argument because it's from my perspective. But I went to the University of Alabama for undergrad. I had the pleasure of watching Tua play in undergrad, but going to a school like that meant that I was close friends with a lot of athletes, some of who are now in the league, some of who were injured. And something that people don't consider, I think, is that quality of life that Steve was talking about, for a lot of these athletes, it's playing football. There is no life without football. And while family is important and while generational wealth is important, there are just athletes like Tua who sometimes football without it, if you were to go out like that, if that were the last play you ever made in the thing that defined your life for so many years, that would take something out of you, right? And so part of me, the mother of like a baby boy in me says, Tua, I want you to place a value to the invaluable, and that's being with your family for as long as you can. But the sensible part of me knows that sometimes you can't tell people that. And I think about I have a career that I worked really hard to get to, that I made a lot of sacrifices for. And if someday that was just taken away from me, I would lose a significant part of who I am. And so I sympathize with that part of Tua that doesn't want to give that up. And I know people are so judgmental about it. And there are people who say he needs to think about his family and think about generational wealth. But I mean, it's easy to say that when you're not in it. And it's easy to say, don't put so much value in your career when you haven't invested so much in it, when it literally has not defined you for so long. And also keep in mind something to note, Tua and his family draw a lot of pride from his career. So it's not just a part of who he is, it's a part of his community and his family. So it matters to him, and it's not going to be an easy decision to give that up. And it's not something that I feel like anybody but Tua can decide to do. And he really, if we value him as a person and a player, we also don't want him to feel pressured to give it up. We want him to know that he's doing it because he knows it's the best decision for him. I do agree with some of the comments that the media has made, that I hope Tua works through this in a smarter fashion. I feel like sometimes because he's that grade A athlete, he kind of wants to hide some of it. And we saw that in previous injuries that he's had. When he was at Alabama, I think he played too soon after his big hip injury that, kept him out. And so he's kind of a little notorious for doing that. And I hope he doesn't rush this, and I hope he heals because that's what I think is best for him as a human and the longevity of his career as a player. But in the whole, I want him to have the resources to make the best decision for himself. And whatever that is, I support it. I love the Miami Dolphins, and I think the Miami Dolphins are better with Tua on the team. But he matters more as an individual. So whatever puts him in the best position is what I ride with.
Absolutely. What are your thoughts, Jason?
I mean, it's his decision. If he's cleared and doctors say you're good to go, what do you want to do? And he says he wants to be the quarterback still. I'm all for that. If it ever goes opposite, I'm all for a person making their own decision after doing all the pros and cons. And I'm rooting for Tua to, when he makes his own decision, to ultimately get back to normal. So I'm all for it. I agree with what Tiff said. And it makes me think of a quote from a movie. I'm a Marvel guy. I'm a Marvel Cinematic Universe guy, admittingly. I love those movies, but there's actually a lot of lesson in there. There's phenomenal writing. There's phenomenal teachings in those movies. And my favorite quote is from one of the the Infinity War Endgame movies. It's no amount of money ever bought a second of time. And you're talking about 21 to 30-year-old people who work about 20 years of their lives to get to where they are for hopefully an average of 3 to 5 years. And some players play 3 to 5 weeks. And you're asking, as Tiff said, you're asking people's lives to just change and tell them to be something you're not quicker than they would have ever thought. And I can't fathom that, because here we are as human beings who aren't, all of us on this show and many, many watching. Thankfully, we're not relying on our physical attributes in nature to make a living. That's not our decision, that we were even God-given that gift in some cases. So for these 1%ers, these athletes, these gladiators, no one could tell them how to live their life except them and their families. So make the decision. I'm all for it.
Absolutely. Before I say something, I want to go to Matt. Matt, what are your thoughts on what's next for Tua and the whole situation?
Well, for starters, I want to make sure everybody knows that I am in the 0.3% of the richest people in the world. So the stats that Steve threw out there, I'm not in the 99.7. I'm in the 0.3, Steve. Just want to let
I
you know, buddy.
appreciate that. That's good to know. That's why I'm your friend.
Yes, exactly.
I have student loans, Matt, if you're ever looking for some charity.
If they're the ones from the University of Alabama, they've got to stay.
We can bring your husband, and we'll go down to Hard Rock. We'll tailgate. Heck yeah. In pre-production, I was talking to Tiffany a little bit about my son playing soccer, and I made the comment that a year from now, I'm not going to know what to do, because he's been playing, and he's been playing since he was 4. And I don't think he recognizes what's going to happen if he doesn't go off to college to play. And I don't know what that's going to do to him, because this is all he's known. He literally plays this sport for 10 months a year. I can't imagine what it's like to be a professional athlete and have somebody say you're done, or have somebody say you need to make a decision. And that decision includes hanging them up. The idea that somebody would tell me that I can't do what I do for a living, what would I do the first day that I woke up after I no longer could do that job? What a weight to have on your shoulders. Jason said, you're looking at 3 to 5 years. The 5 years is if you're incredibly fortunate. If you're incredibly lucky, it's more like, it's probably much closer to 3 than anything. So the idea of telling a 22, 23-year-old, to his case, he's 26, you got to make a decision, dude. And it's not his knee, it's not his hip, it's not his ankle. We're talking about his brain and the ability to have a quality of life for 50 years beyond now. That's his decision. That's not my decision, and it's completely arrogant for anybody, media, fans, anybody, to stand up and say he should retire, or it's his choice. And you know what? If he said tomorrow, screw this injured reserve, I'm retiring, I'm still a Dolphins fan the next day.
Absolutely. Before I go to Steve to close the segment, I'm going to confess something. When I saw him running, like I said, here we go, probably going to happen. Sadness like you can't believe. Tua is a great guy. Everybody loves him. Such a great leader. Such a wonderful human being. But as the week went by, I had to confess, I got mad. I got mad because, of course, it's a game for us. It's his profession. It's his calling of life. But, man, why you have he put so much burden on his shoulders. I got mad at him. I got mad at Mike McDaniel. I got mad at so many people. Why don't you think, fight the next day? There's another day. Just slide. You're training 31. I know the game hasn't gone like the way you wanted, but it's on the coach to tell him, keep your head. He has a quarterback's coach. He has a head coach. He needed to be put into the position not for that to happen. And I got so mad thinking, why, if I knew that could happen, if like 20 minutes before I'm thinking of protect to a full cost, why am I'm as a fan thinking that at home? And those guys on the sideline are not thinking the same thing. When you know Tua is such a competitor. Well, Steve,
No,
it's
you're
to me.
dead on. No, Sammy, you're totally right. But I think that this goes dead on to Tiff's point, is that we don't know the mindset of these world-class athletes and what is really truly driving them. They could have been down 73-3, and I don't know why Tua would have still been out there, but who knows? And he still would want to get that first down because it's what he does. So I totally get that. It makes a lot of sense to me. I wanted to comment real quick on, I think it was Cap for Life was talking about generational wealth. I want to be clear here. There's a delineation between what I'm talking about in terms of generational wealth and what the people, the fans, what we dump into this out of our pockets and our hard-earned money year after year. Tiff, season ticket holder, can't even imagine. I was in the past before they did the price increases. But there's a difference here.
I'm going to have to sell an organ on the black market next year, I'm sure.
Exactly. So, I'm not talking about the fans and everything. I'm talking about if that was his driving motivator, is to make more money and secure his kids up for that. He doesn't need that. But I tend to lean on the side of what Tiff is saying here, that's his life. That's what he's going to do. And without it, and somebody else had said it, the way he was raised, it is his life. It is his legacy. You don't know what is going through their minds. But, Sammy, I really do think that it wouldn't have mattered. He was going to lower his shoulder, which it brings him back to where he was 2 years ago when he spent all last year and even a couple the games leading up to that point this year, the first game and then the first 2.5 quarters, he was sliding. This one time he lowered his shoulder. He knew it was fourth down. He wanted to get it. He wanted to get in the end zone and keep us alive. So
Absolutely. Tiffany, before we go to the next subject, any last thoughts?
For me?
Yes, please.
On Tua?
Yes.
No, I just am praying for Tua. That's where my energy is going into for this team right now. And he's really the leader of the team. So I hope that while he's on injury reserve, the team really works to build up on some of the holes that were exposed in the Jags and Bills game, to include doing whatever we can to salvage that offensive line. And I will be the squeaky wheel that talks about that until we get it fixed. But I think that's what provoked a lot of the problems. I think Tua made bad decisions that were incited by panic due to a discoordinated line. And so I don't think it signaled to his inability to lead the team or be a good quarterback, inexperience behind a line that doesn't protect you from 250-pound men rushing at you at 20 miles per hour. And that would scare anybody. So that's where I am with the team. And I hope Tua gets better and we can salvage some of these games coming up with Skylar. I'm going to hope, but.
Absolutely. We're going to talk more about that in the next segment. Jason, any last thoughts?
On Tua, I think we pretty much covered all. Thoughts and prayers, obviously, to him, and just hopefully he gets back when he's ready and as soon as possible to lead this offense to better offense with him. But to me, this could be an overreaction or an underreaction or the transition to the next segment or whatever. But this will show how much of an offensive genius Mike McDaniel is, because now you've got a plan without the guy that makes your offense go from a vertical and a passing scheme, but you have such good runners now. You have such good short options, I believe, in Jonnu Smith now and Julian Hill getting more involved, Alec Ingold. Plan everything for short yardage, dump-offs and runs, but in a Mike McDaniel way. This is the game that I think might be his biggest offensive genius test on the road against a hostile Seattle crowd, the 12th man. You know what the best way to shut up a crowd is?
Score.
running on 3rd and 1, picking up another first down, keeping their defense on the field exhausted, not having audibilizing offensive calls, not having to shout out, drown out the noise, just run. And I hope they run the ball 30 times.
Absolutely. So, Tiffany, we want to thank you. I know you got to go. You have a 2.5 months at home. We really appreciate you taking time away from your husband and your baby. You're welcome anytime. Your perspective has been great, and you're welcome all over. Thank you, Tiffany, for joining us.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, everybody.
Thanks,
Thank you, everyone, for tuning in.
Thank you, Tiffany. Matt, any last thoughts before we go to the next segment on Tua? Well, do some magic here. Please go ahead, Matt.
Yeah, let's go to the next section.
Okay, absolutely. So next we're gonna go to, Fizz TV overreaction, if I can find it. Here we go. Well, this time it's usually 3 topics for the segment, but only one suffices on this time, and it's only one question. While do some magic, we're gonna have to leave that still on the screen. I'm gonna start with Steve. Steve, just one question for our reaction: yes or no? Is it overreaction? The Dolphins are done. What are your thoughts? Are the Dolphins are done? Is it overreaction? Yes or no?
Is it an overreaction to say the Dolphins are done?
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna. If you want one word from me, here it is. No.
How about you? How about you, Jason? More than one word. Are the Dolphins done?
I'll give you more in a moment. Go ahead.
I'm sure you will.
The Dolphins are not done.
So what is the overreaction? He's a yes. I already know where Matt's going. Old Man River here. I know where he's going.
Season's over, guys.
Please elaborate, Matt.
I'm with Steve. I'm just going to make it a simple one word no. There's 17 games in a season. They got 15 more to go. Let's go. Anything can happen. Look, the biggest thorn in my side as an NFL fan is that the 49ers went to the Super Bowl with the last pick of the draft. Where's that lightning for us? Where is it? Is it Skylar Thompson? I don't know. My son and I were talking earlier about what's this kid's name? Snoop Huntley?
Yes.
McDaniel's a certified genius. Nobody can dispute that. He's proven himself. Who knows? I'm optimistic enough to think that he might catch lightning in a bottle. And then what are you doing? Are you telling if everything aligns the way that we hope as fans that it will? Are we sitting here in 6, 8, 10 weeks saying, Tua, just go ahead and sit out the rest of the year. Get healthy. Dumber things have happened, folks. Crazier things have happened.
So for the record, Matt he didn't understand the question correctly. He is yes that it is an overreaction. I'm the outlier on this. But I'm fine with that. I'm comfortable with that. But, we've got people over here on, we've got Cap, just going off, just naming all the different quarterbacks. I agree with you. Here's the reality. Fields is 2-0. Fields' offense has scored 1 touchdown through 2 games. They've been absolute snooze fest. If you love defensive struggles, if you love a 0-0 baseball game, then Justin Fields is the quarterback for you on the football field. But here, let me elaborate a little bit. So here's why I know I'm basing this off of a very small sample set. Maybe for some odd reason, the mad scientist, the kingpin, McDaniel has been sitting here holding off on something that he didn't want to unleash on the Bills in week 2 when he had a perfect opportunity to. But a little bit of background for those of you that don't know, I grew up in very rural Western New York. And one of the key things for me to do when I was young was to go to the county fair. And I don't know if anybody out there has ever had the pleasure of going to a demolition derby. Raise your hand if you've ever been to a demolition derby before. Okay, outstanding. Great. I don't know. It's been 25 years since I've been to a county fair. But what wins? Jason, real quick, what wins in the demolition derby?
Best equipment to pummel another one?
Pummel, exactly. Okay, so where I'm going with this, you can't build a Corvette to outrace and win a demolition derby. You have to be able to take the hits. Matt, I've been pounding the table for so long. We can't just be a finesse team that as soon as we get hit hard, we fall down and don't get back up, because eventually the big cars are going to catch up with it, the ones that are bolstered with steel and have roll cages and everything, and they're going to smash the living hell out of that Corvette. This team, unfortunately, the way that they have come out is not built sound enough, and based on what I saw rolling out against Buffalo, is not being driven well enough to say, hey, the Dolphins, they can pull this out. Can they? Absolutely. It's a long season. I hope to hell I'm wrong. I really do. But I'll tell you right now, so let down and angry about what they rolled out Thursday night. It's going to stick with me for a long time.
Can I?
Please go ahead. Go ahead, Matt. I came at you. Come at me, man. What's up?
First things first, there's a town in Florida called Bithlo, Bithlo, Bithlo. And they have a figure eight track there, and they used to run school buses on that figure eight track. And as you might imagine, like they would race the school buses on a figure eight track. And as you might imagine, it would devolve into a demolition derby. Apropos of nothing other than Steve Hallett bringing up demolition derbies. I got to say this because Steve's one of my favorite people on the planet. And I know his passion for his favorite sport or his favorite team. But I'm going to tell you, man, if you make every game a life and death thing, you're going to have problems. And for starters, probably the most important thing, you're going to be dead a lot. Like this is it's a game. And we're 2 games into the season. I love your analogy, especially with what I'm about to say about the Corvette. I think the Corvette's the most overrated car ever built in America. And that might be analogous to the Miami Dolphins and their offense. I'm not so bright-eyed that I can't see that it would really be great if you could just knock the hell out of people like they did 20 years ago with Ricky. That would be great. But this is what we have right now. So I'm with them. Whether it's some guy named Snoop or I don't even know the other guy's name. Let's go. Let's play. I can't wait for Sunday.
You only think the Corvette's overrated because your first car was a Model T. So, all right.
That was a solid burn. That was a pretty solid burn right there.
Soul? I don't know. What do you want?
We're in a fight now.
Oh, man. Oh, well, I've been called out by a friend, Eddie Shepard, a member of his crew, saying, "But I hate Coach McDaniel. I don't hate Coach McDaniel, but I've been consistent. I have my reservations. So I believe he's a great play designer. I'm not convinced he's a great play caller. But I digress. I've seen other teams, they get a backup quarterback, Sam Darnold, wink, and, they win a game. Chad Henne for the Chiefs. Every other single team. We're going to find out how good head coach Mike McDaniel is with Skylar Thompson. The other thing is sometimes Mike McDaniel is too emotional and sometimes his loyalty is his downfall. If he's too loyal to Skylar, he's already said there's no competition. Skylar is the guy because Skylar's been here 2 years. If Skylar is not the guy, get him out. I don't want to hear that he has, we're going to give him another chance. We got a 4-game stretch where the Dolphins basically, if they go out 2-2, they still have a chance. If they find a way to go 2-2 the next 4 games, they probably have a fighting chance. But Mike McDaniel gets too emotional. He's loyal to his guys, and now he says he does not have competition. Skylar Thompson, at least for me, has not shown me anything that gives me enough faith for him to be the guy and to give him enough time to develop. If he's not the guy, yank him off. it's not going to be Mike McDaniel. He got to come to the extension. Every other single coach that has got to go to the extension has been fired. Mike McDaniel is not going to be fired, but it's on him right now. He needs to make a tough decision. But I want to know. Give me your thoughts on what you just said, Jason. Am I wrong?
Absolutely not. No, he's got a scheme offensively around his main. The weapons are not Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle per se, as much as it's Devon Achane and Jalen Wright maybe, or the tight ends Alec Ingold. You're going to have to limit the chances that Skylar could possibly make mistakes. The Seahawks have good defensive backs. They have a trio of defensive backs that have all hit Pro Bowls at one or a time or another in the last 3 years. So they got good guys who could defend the Dolphins' best guys. It's the complementary, give the guys the ball and let them do the work. Achane, Jonnu Smith, Alec Ingold. I want a catcher too from Ingold. Don't necessarily run the ball on 3rd and 1 with Alec Ingold every time now. I said that I loved it when it worked, but now when people
make them respect it. Thank
you, Steve. Make them respect it. So you know what? I said this. I might have said this earlier today on this show or the show I was on with my co-host Marissa Marino earlier. I like Skylar Thompson's play action game. If I had to say one thing that I like his fluidity, and when he pulls it back, runs a little outside the pocket, and then has the ability to make a throw. If there's one thing I absolutely would love to see, 3rd and 1. Maybe have that insinuation that you're going to run, play fake and have Skylar do a little bit of freelance on the outside on like a bootleg. And then you got someone on a drag that's just going to get a nice little reception for a first and turn that up the field for some positive yardage. You never know. That's got Jonnu Smith written all over it. Maybe it's on the goal line when maybe you could finally get a tight end touchdown. I don't care if it's Smythe, Smith, Hill. Utilize those weapons in the red zone because everyone's looking at Tyreek Hill. Everyone's looking at Achane, or if it's Mostert, will see the field in the red zone. Get a guy who they're not going to be focused on. Mike McDaniel has to create what on offense for everyone else while we're cheering. That's what he's got to do. He needs to create. It's happened before with us Dolphin fans. Things are weird. They go on a road game. And then they come up with something out their rear ends that no one's ever seen before. I'm not saying come up with the Wildcat. You don't need to come up with a brand new offense. Come up with something tricky. You got enough time on a flight. It's either that or you watch the Godfather saga. It's 7 hours.
How are you, Matt? What are your thoughts? Am I wrong on, the Dolphins are, probably being too low to Skylar for a start?
Listen, I've seen more names in our comment section today than I've ever seen before.
Yes.
Thank you, all of you, for joining us
today.
We're having a lot of fun here tonight. And I just started chuckling before you cut to me because Cosa Nostra made a comment about Forrest Gump and Skylar's moment where the leg braces fall off, and wouldn't that be awesome? Like, wouldn't that be, as a fan base, the most exciting thing? Because we'd all sit up straight on the couch, stand up, start cheering like madmen, mad women. I'm with you, man. Look, I remember having a little bit of a rant with Sammy and Steve earlier in the year about questioning their ability to do the job, whether it's the players or the coaches. Mm-hmm. I'm neither. Apparently I played football when we didn't have face masks and our helmets were leather, according to Steve.
Yes.
But I'm no coach, man. I would be sitting there staring at the players. If I ever swapped, I'd be staring at them like, dude, you're Tyreek Hill. Like, I couldn't do that job. I would literally tell him to just go out and run around. I think he's the best coach that the Dolphins have had since the greatest coach of all time retired. And yeah.
Kidding.
Yeah. Kidding. Watch me go off the deep end.
He won a playoff game.
And Sammy will counter me by saying he's the last one to win a playoff game.
Which is true.
Yeah. I could have won a playoff game with that team. So, anyways,
well, this is more talented than that team, so just saying.
That team had 31 Pro Bowl players on it. And Jason, I know you can look that stat up really quick. I'm probably off by a few, but
you're not off by that much.
So Brock Marion, he's a Pro
I love
Bowl.
Brock Marion.
Okay. Look, Mike McDaniel has forgotten more than I'll ever know about the sport. There are things that I really wish he would do. Number one, first and foremost, figure out how to challenge,
Dear Lord.
seriously. And number two, get the play in time so that there's time on the play clock so that you can get the ball off on time. And number three, which he's kind of sort of answered through 2 games, Alec Ingold is a sledgehammer. He is a Lusaka Polite. Let's use him in short yardage downs. Very short, very small sample size of 2 games, but it looks like they've either added that or he's remembered, hey, we can run it on 3rd and short, 4th and short. There are things, they're not the end of the world things. I would love to see him grow. I would love to see the tight end get more utilization. And I think going to a quarterback out of necessity like Skylar Thompson, the play action, Jason, I 100% agree with you. He has play action ability. Start utilizing the passes out into the flats and the passes on the in routes coming across with the tight end. Let's start doing that a little bit more. I'll reserve my judgment for the end of the year.
Well, before we go to the Seahawks, any last thoughts, Steve?
Yeah, I do want to get onto the Seahawks, but Matt just got absolutely roasted in the comments, and I was like, who is that? I'm like, that's awesome. But no, in transition before we go on to the Seahawks is, bottom line is Tua is one of 1 quarterbacks in this league. In terms of his accuracy, his timing, there is no other quarterback out there that can do it. Do not force Skylar, Huntley, any other quarterback to run that offense. Prove that you are the offensive genius and you have the ability to mastermind an offense that leverages the strengths that are around you. And whether that's Skylar, Huntley, and or Tua when he comes back, just work into those strengths. Let's go on.
And for the record, somebody's getting grounded. So.
Absolutely.
But that is a plus line right there.
I think I just spit on my monitor here. That was awesome.
I love it.
So next, the Dolphins make the longest trip in the NFL. Well, it's the longest trip in the NFL, but as far as the season goes, the Dolphins, at the moment, the 8th ranked offense, the Seahawks number 13, and the passing defense, surprisingly, the Dolphins 5th, and the Seahawks tied for 2nd. So that's a kind of interesting note. For the weather, still early, but always rains in Seattle. That's why they say so.
Seattle.
Seattle. So shades of light rain. That's a positive for apparently. So for the Dolphins, on the good news side, Kevin Harlan's still in the game. So that's something positive. So that's a bit of the good news. Let me go over here and and well, let's start with this. What are your thoughts, Steve? What are your thoughts on the Seahawks game? Of course, the Dolphins right now without Sky, Tua, Armstead's out. So many variables that are not looking good for the Dolphins.
I mean, here's well. First of all, this is going to be the Jerome Baker, Connor Williams match of the Dolphins were right to move on and not keep them around. Or no, I'm kidding. Here's what I hope for: a win. I hope Kevin Harlan learns, he's got Jonnu. I don't know. He's got Ingold, something. Just find a way to win. I know tomorrow, I think, is the first day we'll see the injury reports come out, so we're really not too sure what we're going to see, but from what I understand, the Seahawks were a little beat up. We are really beat up in terms of our offensive line. So it was said earlier, you've got a long trip. You've had an extended time since Thursday to figure out what you can do with what you have. Just find a way to win. It's a winnable game. This isn't one of the juggernauts. They are 2-0, but second week of this season. So going into the third.
Absolutely. What are your thoughts about the Seattle game, the Seahawks game? Matt, please, before we go to Jason.
I'm sorry. Apparently, I'm so old I didn't hear who you were talking to.
That was on me. You're good.
Listen, this might sound a little odd coming from me, but this is a must-win, and it's a must-win because you've had 9 days off. You've had an opportunity to figure out what you're going to do. You've known since last week that Skylar Thompson was going to be your starting quarterback. Yeah, you're banged up, but injuries they're that way before the opening game of the season. I think this is a must-win game. I think that it could spiral if they go up there and have another showing like they did against the Bills. Go up there and put up a fight, overcome the odds and win, and you build some confidence coming back to Miami. You build some confidence. You build some deep breath. Okay, Skylar did okay. Let him go. Let him go 12 for 24, 12 for 20, or 168 yards and a touchdown. Keep it on the ground, like Jason said. Jason asked that question earlier, and I said score, which is probably the second best answer. The best answer is keep it on the ground, run it, keep the crowd out of it. Don't give them a reason to, like a turnover. Don't give them that opportunity. Pummel, another adjective, another synonym for pummel, bludgeon. And maybe they don't have that bludgeoning. Earl Campbell, another old reference for those of you who don't know, he was a great running back. A Larry Zonka. Maybe they don't have a Larry Zonka, but you can die by 1,000 cuts just as much as you can die by getting stabbed in the heart. Run HN. Run. Is Mostert going to play? I don't know yet. We won't know until the injury report comes out. But you have options to stay in control of the ball. They go up there and they can pull it off. I think that maybe the clouds start to part a little bit.
How are you, Jason? What are your thoughts on this other game?
It's going to be a tough game. Even with a starting quarterback going into one of the toughest places to play. Again, they have a good secondary. They have a stat that I pulled up it scares the bejesus out of me. Earlier in the year, early so far, I know it is in the season in 2 games, but so far the Seahawks lead the NFL in 3 and outs. Half of their defensive possessions, they cause a 3 and out. That's a lot. That's like really bad if you're the Dolphins, and that's really good if you're the Seahawks. So their defense is ready to play, and they get off the field quick. So when you have a second string, or really a third string who won a second string job, let's face it, come on in to be that quarterback at a hostile location with that crowd noise, it's a scary proposition. I'm not going to lie to you. I think that this is why McDaniel has to be the best play caller in the NFL on Sunday and Thursday night and Monday night. He has to be the best head coach at calling offensive plays. I'm not saying the Seattle Seahawks defense is, the 2000 Ravens, but against Skylar Thompson, they might look it. I'm not going to lie here. They have some good horses on defense. Some they lost, some they brought in. We got Jordan Brooks, they got Jerome Baker. They brought in another free agent, from the Giants, I believe. They have good players all across that defense, and I think they could pose problems for anybody who enters that building let alone a team coming off of an injured starting quarterback and has to use a second-string, seventh-round, third-year guy.
Absolutely.
That's the most pessimistic I've ever been in like 3 years in a show, I feel like.
Absolutely. It's important for the Dolphins not like you said, for the Wheels, that there's no ball game. This game is going to decide probably the rest of the season. If they give a fight, and they find a way to, even if they don't win, this one of the best home field advantages in NFL is Seattle. We're gonna state that for a fact. The crowd noise when a new quarterback is going to be really rough. But the Dolphins, they give a good fight, and they find a way to not to look demoralized and like, okay, they gave up. The Dolphins is going to have a chance. That's going to be a nice game. And last of the Seattle game, Steve, before we go to the big finish.
Nope,
So,
I'm ready to find a positive attitude again, and it's going to start on Sunday.
Absolutely.
Matt got me jump started here. So in Tyler's comments, it made it a little bit easier to move on. So I'm good.
Absolutely. So let's go to the big finish. Well over 700 on all platforms. We want to say thank you to all of you, to all those who had commented during the show. We really appreciate it. Please like and subscribe. Again, thank you to our special guest, Tiffany, Tiff Tower Terror on X, our friend, honorary member of the Fin Street Crew, Jason Sarney. You can find the hardest working man on Dolphin Station at _Sarney on X. Of course, Mark Armstrong and Steve Hallett. So next we're going to go to the Fizz TV Top 5 Power Rankings. It was certainly a very weird week. The Buccaneers at number 5 after winning in Detroit. The Saints, the number 4. The Texans at number 3. The Bills at the opening that kind of whoop and sound the Dolphins at number 2. And of course, still the refs at number 1. I mean, the Chiefs are at number 1. Steve, what are your thoughts on the Fizz TV Power Rankings?
No, I'll make it quick. Chiefs, absolutely. I don't even know what it is. They got bailed out time and time again. I think you have. I didn't see this coming. I don't know if anybody saw this coming, but you have the Saints ranked too low there. That is something else.
That was amazing.
Yeah,
for sure.
But no, that was really good. So.
Absolutely. The Eagles were used to be at number 2, but after Big Fangio play call, that last drive that the Eagles lost that game to the Falcons. So that's some Dolphins got. I'm sorry, the Eagles got a dose of Big Fangio. So it wasn't pretty. So next we're gonna go to the Pick and League rankings. A lot of weird scores during last week's pick'em. So the House at number 10, Armstrong at number 9, Shari had at number 8, the A-Turn number 7, our friend Sarni at number 6, the Vintuber number 5, Lou from Dade at number 4, Cyber Leaks at number 3, Tiffany, our guest at number 2, and Bearded Fanatic at number 1.
Matt, if you thought I was bad at Finn's TV Jeopardy, you ain't seen nothing yet, because I am bottoming out with these picks.
What place am I in?
You're 9th.
Right. That's because I don't pay any attention to it. I just pick, and I highly recommend
Get a dog and have it pick for you. You'll probably still beat me. Seriously.
Probably. I might have my son do it this coming week, and if I drop any lower in the standings, he's grounded.
Awesome show, guys. This was absolutely fantastic. The engagement on the comments this week was incredible. I didn't see this coming, Sammy. We still managed, over 700 views on X alone. It's awesome. But we appreciate everybody showing out and for the engagement. It was awesome.
Well, on the upper right corner, his daughter Fraser Crane from Fraser for that. Kelsey Grammer is a huge Dolphins fan. That's something I found out this week, and his dog Eddie. So our thoughts are with our friend Eddie Chapman as he's still taking care of his dad. So, well, it's been a rough week, but hopefully we'll make the best out of it, and this weekend we find a way to win in Seattle. So again, thank you guys. Thank you, Jason, for always being the best and joining us. Matt, Mr. Perfect Armstrong, thank you, for always being positive. And Steve, thank you. It's been a rough week, but we'll find a way to put it together. So
it's great to get together with everybody.
Let's follow it. Well, as always, when you say Miami, you're still talking Super Bowl. Fins up.
Fins up, guys.
Thanks for watching Fins TV. Please like and subscribe. See you next week. Fins up.